Hey credit warriors, and here it is, my 2020 update to my very popular How to Climb the Credit Card Ladder video. You know, 2020 in general has been a crazy year. And I know a lot of people watching this may have trashed their credit scores due to missed payments, high utilization, and may have even had credit card accounts closed on them. And the credit card industry has also had new cards come out that slightly alter the ranges of some of the tiers in my original How to Climb the Credit Card Ladder video. So taking all that into account, we're going to give you the definitive guide to moving up through the tiers of credit cards in 2020. No matter whether you're starting off building up your credit for the first time or you're building back up because you've trashed your credit score because of what a crazy year it's been. So let's start with Tier 1. So Tier 1 is basically credit builder cards, which would include secured credit cards and also subprime cards that target people with low credit scores, and then also dedicated balance transfer cards. Now, the one big thing that these cards all have in common is that they do not accumulate any kind of rewards, okay? No cash back for your spending, no points, nothing like that. And most of the time, they do not have annual fees, although some subprime cards will have annual fees, and we'll talk about that a bit more later. So let's give you some examples. For building up or rebuilding credit, we have the old faithful Capital One Platinum. This is my #1 recommended credit builder card, link below. Then we also have a few others. For example, we have secured cards like the Capital One Secured MasterCard, the Open Sky Secured Visa, this one does have a $35 annual fee, or the Self Credit Builder Secured Visa. Then we have subprime cards. So First Premier Bank has a variety of subprime cards, but it seems the only difference between them is the card art. Look, it even says choose your design at no additional charge. That's because everything else there's a charge for. So in Tier 1, subprime cards do often have annual fees and high interest rates. And that's because they're targeted at people with especially low credit scores. So if you think about it, they're basically lending you money by taking quite a big risk themselves, and thus they charge higher fees and they have higher interest. The Indigo Platinum MasterCard is another subprime card, and it may charge an annual fee depending on your credit score. So if your credit score is bad enough to need to get this card, chances are you're going to get charged an annual fee. Credit One Bank also has a variety of subprime cards, and in general, these subprime cards should be avoided unless you absolutely have no other choice in order to build up your credit score. Then also in Tier 1, we have dedicated balance transfer cards like the Chase Slate. This card currently isn't available on their website. They're actually targeting people through the mail with this one. Then another example is the Citi Diamond Preferred. It also offers no rewards or cashback. Its main selling point is its balance transfer function. It offers 0% APR for 21 months. Now there are other balance transfer cards in other tiers that have other things going for them, like they earn points or whatever, but the ones in Tier 1 basically are cards that have balance transfer as their main selling point. So who's going to be getting a Tier 1 card? Well, it's going to be people with low credit scores. So as a guide, I would say credit score below 680 would, count as sort of medium low to low. And if you're going for a subprime card, that's going to be people with much lower credit scores. So the low 600s, maybe even into the 500s. So this could be someone just starting out on their journey of climbing the credit card ladder, building up their credit score, or it could be someone who has trashed their credit through missed payments, through bankruptcy, and they need to build that credit score back up. In terms of credit limits, if you have a low credit score, if you only just qualify for one of these cards, the credit limit they're going to give you is going to be just a few $100s, maybe even like $300 or something like that. Although in theory, if you have a much higher credit score and for some reason you still want to apply for one of these cards, they actually might give you a credit limit of several $1,000s. But for most people applying for these, it's going to be a few $100. All right, so that's where we start on the credit card ladder. Let's now look at the next tier, Tier 2. Now these are credit cards that actually give you some kind of rewards. The most common in this tier would be cashback, but there are a few others that earn points too. My other requirement for these cards is that they have no annual fee. Some examples of Tier 2 cards would be the Citi Double Cash, the Discover It card, Capital One Quicksilver, the new Apple credit card, the new US Bank Altitude Go, or the Amex Everyday card, or also the Chase Freedom. Now most of those earn cashback, for example the Apple card, the Citi Double Cash, but actually a few of them earn points, like the Amex Everyday card, although because it's only Tier 2 and it has no annual fee, its points multipliers are lower than other Amex cards with annual fees. For example, it earns 2 points per dollar at supermarkets, whereas the Amex Gold that has an annual fee earns 4 points per dollar at supermarkets. The Chase Freedom also earns cashback, but that cashback can be transformed into ultimate rewards points if you get a Chase Sapphire card later on. Cards in this tier will often come with a small sign-up bonus of between $100 and $200 in value, and that's normally for spending between $500 and $1,000 in the first 3 months. The Discover It card takes a different approach. They match all the cashback you earn in the first year. For some, that could be more lucrative than a $100 to $200 sign-up bonus. Now, there could be some overlap with Tier 1 with some of these cards. For example, the Discover It card, even though it earns rewards, could be considered a starter card for some. Many people do actually manage to get this as their first credit card. But seeing as it earns rewards, I still put it in Tier 2. The Chase Freedom as well is a Tier 2 card. Okay, it earns rewards and has no annual fee, fits the Tier 2 requirements, but I actually got that as my first credit card, and that's because I bank with Chase. So I already had a relationship with the bank, and the banker in the branch actually wrote a letter to the credit card department supporting my application, but originally I was denied for the Chase Freedom. But I think an important point would be people who get the Chase Freedom or the Discover It as their first card would normally be people starting out with a clean slate, okay? So not really any credit score, but no negative marks either. I think if you're someone who has absolutely trashed their credit score through bankruptcy or negative information or whatever, you're gonna have to go back down to Tier 1 and get either a secured card or one of those subprime cards. So what credit score would you need for Tier 2? Well, in general, it's gonna be around the upper 600, so maybe 670 and above. But you know, your income and your relationship with that bank will also play a role. So some people who have lower credit scores may still be able to get approved for Tier 2 cards. How much credit will they give you? Well, for people who kind of just meet the requirements, normally the minimum credit limit on these cards will be around $500, okay? Chase Freedom, minimum credit limit is $500, but obviously if you have a much higher credit score, you could have a credit limit of thousands of dollars of one of these cards. Okay, let's move on to the next tier, Tier 3. Okay, so this is where things start to get really lucrative for people who are playing the credit card and travel hacking game. And Tier 3 has actually got broader since my last video on this topic. So Tier 3 cards have annual fees, typically of around $100. The most common annual fee is $95, but it can actually go all the way up to $250. So the Amex Green and the Amex Gold, I would say, fit into Tier 3. The Amex Green has an annual fee of $150. The Amex Gold is $250. And that's really the highest annual fee I would expect in this tier, $250. Now, the Amex Gold came out revamped in 2018, and I did consider making this kind of like a tier 3.5 card, but I held back. I just made tier 3 a bit broader. Two reasons. One, I didn't want to make it too complicated, but also two, the Amex Gold does offer $220 worth of credits for food delivery and also airline fee credit, which if you use them right, this card won't cost you really any more money than the average tier 3 card, okay? Even though up front you're paying $250, you get a lot of that value back. In terms of sign-up bonuses, these cards will normally give you a sign-up bonus of about $500 in value, and that would be for spending between $3,000 and $4,000 in the first 3 months. And that normally comes in the form of either transferable points, airline points, or hotel points. So what cards would fit into this category? Well, we have the two Amex cards we just mentioned, green and gold, and they earn transferable points. Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Citi Premier, those two also earn transferable points. Then we have various co-branded airline cards with $100 annual fees like United, Delta Airlines, Amex card, the mid-tier airline cards, they fit into this category too. And then there are some hotel cards which typically will give you a free night and they have an annual fee of around $100, so they fit into this tier too, including the Marriott Bonvoy card from Amex, the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless from Chase, the World of Hyatt card, the IHG Rewards Club Premier card. They all give you an anniversary free night that more than cancels out the annual fee of the card. Then there's also the Hilton Surpass Amex that gives you a free night if you spend at least $15,000 in any given year. That one also gives you Hilton Gold status though, which kind of makes up for the fact that you have to spend 15 grand and the annual fee is around $100. Now, in terms of points multipliers on your spending, tier 3 is where you start to get some really good multipliers. So the Amex Gold earns 4 points per dollar on US supermarkets and restaurants worldwide. The Citi Premier earns 3 points per dollar on travel, including gas. the Chase Sapphire Preferred earns 2 points per dollar on travel and dining. And if you want to keep track of your points multipliers, how many points you're getting per dollar spent, a great app to use is Amex Rewards. It gives you all your cards in one place, showing you balance information and crucially which cards to use where in your local area to get the max rewards, i.e. the highest points per dollar spent. Another really cool feature of the app is that it automatically activates Amex and Chase offers so that you'll save money without even realizing it. Normally it costs 20% of the money you save, but you can get $50 worth of fee-free savings by signing up through our link below. Okay, back to tier 3 cards. So what are the requirements for this tier? Well, in terms of credit score, you'd need to be above 700 typically, although if you have high income, long credit history, you may get away with being slightly below, but most people would need to be above 700. And the sort of minimum credit limit on these cards is going to be around $5,000. For example, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the minimum credit limit they'll give out is $5,000. So your financial information is going to need to reflect that you can handle that amount of credit. All right, guys, let's move on to the next tier. Tier 4. These are known as premium credit cards, okay? And they have several characteristics. So first of all, they'll all have an annual fee of at least $450. They used to all be $450, but now some go as high as $550 or even $595, and there's a few that go even higher. Though typically they'll all provide some kind of travel credits that you can claw some of that annual fee back throughout the course of the year, but you do have to pay around $500 or so upfront in an annual fee when you get the card. Also, typically they will all provide some kind of airport lounge access. Most common, it's through Priority Pass. The ones with transferable points typically have Priority Pass. Although if you get a co-branded card, like a co-branded airline card, it will often be the lounge network that's part of that airline. For example, the American Airlines Executive Platinum gives you Admirals Club access, the Delta Reserve will give you Delta Sky Club access, etc. You can expect the sign-up bonuses to be either the same or slightly higher than tier 3, so between $500 and $1,000 in value, depending on how you use it, okay? Because these are always going to be points or transferable points or airline miles or hotel points. It's not going to be cashback. So depending on how you use the bonus, it could be worth probably up to $1,000. And also the minimum credit limit you could expect on these cards would be around $10,000. That's sort of the starting point, although it can go much higher. The minimum credit score for applying, I would recommend around 720, although obviously with, depending on your income and depending on your credit history length, you could go slightly lower than that. Now, these tier 4 credit cards are normally the highest level most people will reach, and they include the Amex Platinum, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Citi Prestige. Then there are also co-branded tier 4 cards like the 2 airline cards we already mentioned. Also the Hilton Aspire, which gives you Hilton Diamond status. That's the top status available, plus the usual Priority Pass, airport lounge access, etc. Then there are even some other tier 4 cards that have higher annual fees, like the Luxury Card Gold Card, which is $995 a year, but really you're just paying for a gold-plated card, okay? The actual benefits of that card are not much different to other tier 4 cards, so I would still put it in tier 4. Then there's also rumored to be a new Amex card coming out that would be above Platinum and below Centurion with an annual fee of around $1,500. Now, would this be a tier 4.5 card? Well, I don't know yet. Probably I'm just going to list it as a particularly exclusive tier 4 card, especially if it's publicly available, because there's one thing that the next tier of card, tier 5, all have in common. And let's talk about that now. Tier 5. Tier 5 cards are invitation only. That is the #1 criteria for a tier 5 card in my 5-tier credit card system. Obviously they are very exclusive as well, very expensive, but yeah, you cannot apply for these cards. You have to be invited. They have to look at your financial information and they have to think, this is the kind of guy we'd like to be a card member. So the most common tier 5 card we think of would be the Amex Centurion, also known as the Black Card. Then we also have the JP Morgan Reserve, which is only for members of JP Morgan Private Bank. Then overseas, there is the Coutts Silk Card in the UK, the Dubai First Royale Card in Dubai. And all these cards have different selling points. So the Amex Centurion card, it is expensive. It costs $5,000 per year in annual fees. And you have to spend about $350,000 a year on other Amex cards to be considered for the card. There is a website, Centurion.com, where you can register your interest, but I did it a few months ago and they never got back to me. Foolish. They don't know what they're missing out on. Anyway, the Centurion card caters to a kind of celebrity-style lifestyle in its benefits. So it gives you Equinox gym membership, for example, and access to a private terminal, no, not a lounge, an actual private terminal at LAX Airport in LA. So they're aiming it at Hollywood celebrities, basically. Then in contrast, the JP Morgan Reserve card actually only costs $595 a year. not that much more than the Sapphire Reserve, and the benefits are very similar to the Sapphire Reserve, just a few things are slightly better. So really, it's just a flex card that shows that you're loaded, and that's because it's only available to members of JP Morgan Private Bank. So not Chase Private Client, JP Morgan Private Bank, and supposedly you need to have $10 million in assets under management, but in reality, it seems they let a few cheapskates in too. Then the Coutts Silk card has no annual fee at all, but it's only available to members of Coutts Private Bank, which is a very prestigious bank in the UK where the Queen keeps her money. And to be a member, you have to have at least £1 million, that's $1.3 million or so, under management with Coutts. Then the Dubai First Royale card, which actually has like 24 karat gold and also a diamond inlaid into the card. Its requirements are even higher. Basically, it's only available to like the royal family and ultra high net worth individuals in Dubai, people with, who are billionaires or who have at least hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's tier 5, guys. An interesting place, but not a place that most people will end up hanging out in. In reality, most people's cards will come from either tier 2 or tier 3. So for myself, I have, I think, one tier 1 card, a couple of tier 2 cards, several tier 3 cards, and then just one tier 4 card. There's not really much point in getting more than one tier 4 card for most people, and that's because you're going to be doubling up on benefits. Like, they all give priority pass lounge access. There's no point in having 2 priority pass cards. You can't use both of them at the same time, all right? You can only use one, and most of them are unlimited anyway, so you're just wasting one of them. And obviously the annual fees are huge, so that's going to add up really quickly if you're not using the benefits. It might be worth it for some people who are like power travelers and, always traveling and really can make use of all of the benefits on several tier 4 cards. But for most people, I would say one is enough. Really, you're getting that card for the benefits, and then tier 3 cards are going to be for earning points, and perhaps tier 2 cards, if you want to earn cash back, you probably hang out in tier 2. So that is the tier system, guys, and I hope it helps you out on your road to improving your credit and climbing back up the credit card ladder, whether you're doing it for the first time or whether you're rebuilding credit after, financial hardship. Or perhaps your credit score is okay, but you just want to earn more credit card points and rewards. That's what we're about on this channel. So guys, before we go, do check out Max Rewards. It's a very helpful app in keeping track of your credit card spending and how much of your credit limits you're using, and then also obviously your credit card rewards, knowing which cards to use where. And we do have that deal for $50 worth of savings for free. So please check that out below. Link is in the description of this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you're new, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.